Well, now we go to our nation's capital, as where we mentioned the Senate certified President-elect Donald Trump's 2024 election win today. There were a few procedural changes with that process and a lot of security upgrades. It was a much different scene 4 years ago, of course, when thousands of people mobbed the People's House trying to stop the certification of President Joe Biden's victory. More than 140 officers were injured, and the Justice Department has charged more than 1,500 people with crimes related to it. 2/3 of those charged have pleaded guilty already. But many of those defendants are now hoping for a pardon from President-elect Donald Trump, based on statements he made on the campaign trail. That move could impact more than a dozen defendants from Minnesota. Today, Morgan Wolf looked into the status of those cases and joins us with an update. Hi, Morgan.
Yeah, hey, Kent. I pulled a number of court documents today from these Minnesotans that were arrested related to January 6. Now, some have been sentenced, some have served their time, and some are still awaiting trial.
The last time that the U.S. Capitol had actually been stormed was more than 200 years ago. So the idea that we have an assault, a breaking and entering on the U.S. Capitol is an incredible rarity.
A peaceful transfer of power is the hallmark of democracy. January 6, 2021 was anything but peaceful.
It was violent. People died. People were hurt. This is not what we expect of the United States.
St. Thomas professor David Schultz says that the polarization of politics has only grown since that day.
I think there's an incredible partisan divide in the United States over the interpretation of January 6th. And it's going to be interesting to see how history and the history books read this.
And a new chapter could be written once President Trump returns to office, with his eye on pardoning people charged with crimes related to January 6, including 15 Minnesotans. 7 have been sentenced, and most served little to no prison time. And some of the sentences did include home detention, probation, or just fines. 6 pled guilty. Frank Braxton Jr. from Eagan was sentenced to 6 months of probation with 60 hours of community service. Daniel Johnson from Austin was sentenced in June 2022 to 4 months in jail, probation, and fines. And his father, Daryl Johnson, who lives in Iowa, received a similar sentence. Jordan Stotts from Bemidji was sentenced to 60 days, home detention, probation, and community service. Victoria White from Rochester was sentenced to 10 days in prison and probation. Paul Orta from Blue Earth was sentenced to 6 months in prison and 12 months of supervised release. The longest sentence of just under 3 years was handed down to Brian Mock in February of 2024. In court documents, the FBI says that Mock was seen on body camera video kicking, shoving, and throwing a flagpole at officers. He also stole their riot shields and was handing them out to other people in the crowd. His time was recently reduced, though, to factor in time already served since his arrest. 8 Minnesotans are still awaiting trial. Kenneth Fuller and brothers Caleb and Nicholas Fuller from Cleveland, Minnesota have their next court appearance this Friday. The Justice Department says the 3 were seen on body cameras pushing against police officers. Martin Kudrow from Lakeville was charged in December of 2023 and is awaiting trial scheduled for the end of January. Robert, Jonah, and Isaac Westbury and Aaron James from Lindstrom have their next court appearance scheduled for February 7th. A crowdfund-raising site created by Robert's wife has now raised over $60,000 for the Westbury family's legal fees. The most recent update from Mother Rosemary on January 29th says, "We are hoping and praying for blanketed pardons. I would like to see pardons of innocents."
Does he have the legal authority to do that? Yes, he does. But we're just not going to know until what? January 20th.
The Justice Department's investigation remains one of the largest in American history, with hundreds of additional arrests possible as authorities continue to identify suspects through social media and also security footage.
All right, thanks, Morgan.